Today I thought I'd give some miniature photography a try. I'm going to be showing you how I got results like these from doing a little bit of miniature photography. Okay, so I started off with this miniature. It's like a die-cast model, and I got it to help kind of previs some car shoots for a project that I'm in the middle of doing. But it's actually a really nice detailed model, and I think it's detailed enough to get away with doing some miniature shoots with it. So that's what I tried to do. So yeah. So what I started off doing was having a look at the kind of the different angles that the car could be taken from. Obviously the luxury of it being a miniature is that you can kind of get them really high shots. So I tried a number of different shots out, some that was obtainable with a large scale vehicle, kind of mimicking the kind of angle that you would get if you were just taking this for real, and some that were kind of unrealistic to shoot in this with a large scale vehicle unless you had more equipment than just a camera and a tripod. I really like the shape of it and what it looks like from the top, so I decided to start with this top down shot. I decided to just use a large soft light source. So for that I'm using a aperture 120D. I'm more of like a video guy first and a photo guy second. I don't actually own any kind of like strobe lights, but the aperture worked great. I had it set up with a dome softbox with 2 layers of diffusion, and I kind of tried different positions of the light. It was always a challenge to kind of get that balance between the way the light would kind of catch the different contours of the car, keeping that softbox from dominating the paintwork of the car in certain areas. You'll also see that I am putting a couple of bits of thin black card, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I know that later on I'm going to be compositing this on the top of some tarmac. I think they call it asphalt in the US. Just a road, basically. I'm going to be putting this on like a road texture. For miniature shoots, generally speaking, you don't really want any depth of field. So on the lens that I'm using, I'm just using my 24-70, and I've whacked the lens all the way up to f22. One of the things that was kind of annoying with this miniature shoot was all of the dust that was on the car. I'm not sure whether it's the paintwork on this model or whether it's kind of, I don't know whether it's like the material that they make it out of, but it seems to be a dust magnet, and the fact that this is a black car as well, I think kind of makes it even worse and even more noticeable. So I did the best job I could using like a microfiber cloth and getting rid of that dust. It wasn't really having it. That meant that in the edit, I'm having to sort of do quite a lot of cleanup when it comes to removing dust particles. So because I had to whack the f-stop right the way up, meant that I'd have to compensate with that with either the ISO or the shutter speed. And to get a nice clean image, and because I have the option of having, it's on a tripod, so I have the option of being able to have a really long exposure, I went with the route of having maybe a second long exposure. I didn't have my remote trigger with me, so what I had to do was just put the camera on like a 2-second timer, so my hand taking the picture wasn't introducing a tiny little bit of shake, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so let's talk about the edit of the car. So what I did was I brought the images into Photoshop. I'm going to be just working with that top-down photo for this video. What I did was I started out by masking out the car, and I used the pen tool to do this. I find it pretty handy for things like this. I did have to spend a little bit of time going through and removing the little dust particles. And for that I found that the clone stamp tool as well as the spot healing brush tool worked really well for that. So what I'm using is a back plate that I took. What I've done is I've duplicated the car layer and I've turned it into a shadow using curves, converted it to a smart object and added a Gaussian blur. And the shadows are really going to be the thing that is going to either make it look real or make it look really fake. I think I added maybe 3 or 4 different layers of shadows for this particular image. Again, I had quite soft shadows just because the lighting was pretty soft on the actual car. And then what I did was I did a little bit of dodge and burn just to darken the edges of the car. And I found that helps kind of blend the car into that black backplate a little bit. So then I did some various adjustments with the exposure of the car just to get it to match that backplate as best as I could. I then decided to add some headlights that were on the backplate, and I did that just by adding ellipse tools, converting them to smart objects, and then adding Gaussian blurs. Reduce the opacity, and I found that the best blending mode was soft light. I then added a really large ellipse tool and put it on the top of the image where the softbox light was coming from. So I did some other adjustments before moving everything into Lightroom, where I made some final adjustments. And this is the finished image. If you like the video, then don't forget to give it a like. It really helps me out in beating the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment and let me know if you have any tips or tricks with miniature photography. Finally, subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated with all of my future uploads. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.